Hi, okay, so welcome to my channel. The title of this video is quite misleading, I just want to let you know. So we are talking about books today. They're not books that I read in July or August or even June, actually. I wrote this script back in May, and then a lot of things happened. I took the LSAT, I got a new job, and I met someone, I went to 2 music festivals, and I got new glasses. So big happenings. This script did not get recorded, but I figured I'd just talk about these books anyway because I liked what I wrote. Oh, AC is on. I probably should refilm the intro, huh? So this script never got filmed, but I really enjoyed the books that I read, and I feel like it actually was pretty representative of like my current taste in books that I go for, so I thought I'd film it anyway, and introduce you guys to my taste in reading, in case that interests you. Alright, so like some tidbits about my reading habits. So, first of all, I only ever read used books, or books from the library, or loan books. If I do ever read a new book, it's because like I pre-ordered it and I really want to support the author, or that's about it. And that kind of leads into my next thing about my reading habits, is that I do not read trendy books. So I'm probably not going to be the best booktuber, because it's just random. I mean, I think that's a part of reading books from used bookstores, is like you have to have a really long to be read list, because chances are like you're not gonna have like the used bookstore isn't gonna have exactly what you want, or any novels that were written in the past 5 years, to be real. Can you see me? I feel like I'm so blurry. Last time I filmed a whole video and then I was really blurry, so hopefully I'm not blurry. Alright, so the first book that I read in the month of May, I started this in April, and then I finished it in May. It took me a little bit longer to read because it is like non-fiction. So this is Under the Banner of Heaven, A Story of Violent Faith by Jon Krakauer. So you probably know Jon Krakauer from Into the Wild. You know how like everyone has a personal vendetta against some awful book that they had to read in high school? Mine is Into the Wild. I don't know why, but I hate that book. I honestly can't even really remember why I hate it so much, but I just remember getting in fights with like kids in my English class in high school, and I was like, about this book. So I read this book because it was lying around my house. I think my dad read it a couple years ago, and I had also been loaned, spoiler alert, this is the next book, Educated by Tara Westover, from one of my mom's friends. And I knew it was about Mormonism, and I just, sometimes I don't like to read books if I don't feel like I have like a really solid background about the background information. So I thought I'd read this because it's about Mormonism in the United States. It's about like the founding of the religion, all of the controversies that have surrounded it, and the main controversy at the center of it that Krakauer kind of like goes off of to talk about other tangents, is this case from 1994 where these like fundamentalist Mormon brothers had a vision from God that told them to kill their sister-in-law and her like 1-year-old daughter, so they murdered her. And it kind of goes from there, from like all sorts of controversies, like big trigger warning. This is like the discussion of child sexual abuse in this is like a large majority of the book. It's honestly very disturbing. And this was written in I think like 2003, and like so much has happened since then. I don't know if you know about like the Warren Jeffs case and whatnot, but like Mormonism is really unique in world religions because we have such a definite record of it. Like, another nonfiction book I'd really recommend about theology, which is a niche of mine, is Zealot by Reza Aslan, and he talks about like Jesus as a historical figure, but like the amount that he has to draw on is so small, and like it made through so many inferences based on like tiny little details that we have, but like so many people have been writing about Mormonism forever. I mean, since it's existed in like the 1800s. And it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. So a distinction needs to be made is like the Church of the Latter-day Saints is the big church. Like that's the Mormon church. And Krakauer focuses on the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, which are basically the extremists of the church. So like they're a very small majority of peaceful, normal, everyday practicing Mormons that you probably know and have met in your life and stuff like that. It's not an anti-Mormon book. It tells the truth, and it also tells the truth about the fundamentalist church. So it's like the fact that the actual church was so threatened by this is pretty telling in my opinion, because it's not even about the real church, it's about the fundamentalist church. And honestly, if you read it, Krakauer makes that very clear. Like, he very clearly states pretty constantly that this is like a small percentage of practicing Mormons that have acted like this. Krakauer's stated sort of theme that he wants to explore the most is like how faith can be something that's so strong that it drives you to do things that are not rational. In this case, to murder an innocent woman and her baby. But I don't think that he really accomplishes it that much. I've read a decent amount of creative nonfiction where it's like you're telling a cohesive story, but you're also tackling like a specific theme where you wanna, like, you use the story to build a new context on which you can understand something new about more of an abstract topic. And I think that's what he was trying to do in terms of faith is in general, but I didn't really feel like I came away with it that much. I think it was more of like a spectacle. I think once he started doing this research, he like realized like how kind of crazy the story by itself was, and just telling the story was like a lot of effort and like was pretty sensational in itself. So like he didn't really get to the more of like the abstract concepts, which is fine because I still really enjoyed the book. But okay, so next was Educated by Tara Westover. I'm a little bit late to this. This was a trendy book, like what, 3 years ago? Oh no, last year. So look, I do read trendy books. What am I talking about? So anyway, this is a memoir about Tara Westover's time living with her father. He like completely isolated them from the world. They were very, very, very religious, very, very, very isolated on a farm next to a mountain in Idaho. Tells her story about being a child and growing up and like deciding to go to college and how difficult that was for her. And I really enjoyed this. I love a good memoir. I think that she is really honest. I mean, I know that seems like a kind of maybe an obvious point to make about a memoir, but like she's very willing to say, this is how I think I remember it. Someone else doesn't remember it this way. I think memory is really fallible, but this is what shaped my experience. And I just really appreciate that as a reader, because I feel like it makes the rest of her writing more credible, that she's just willing to like say something like that. I really enjoyed the writing style. It flows very well, it's not rushed, it's not aggressive, it's very tactile. Definitely like she sets the scene very well. You can tell that she really loves the landscape of the mountain that she grew up on. It's very, very vivid detail. She did an interview with Terry Gross on Fresh Air that I listened to, and she basically tells the entire story of the memoir in that 40-minute interview. But like, I knew everything that was going to happen, and I still found it very worth it to read the book, just because the way that she writes it versus speaking it is very beautiful and very touching. So I also really love reading memoirs because I'm a writer and I enjoy writing creative nonfiction. So I enjoy reading creative nonfiction as like a craft element. I take note of form and techniques and storytelling techniques and ways to weave in emotion with just like straight up facts of the storytelling, how to characterize people in your life that are real people, which I think is a very difficult task. And honestly, as a writer, as someone that's written creative nonfiction and has had it published before, like, I've hurt people because of how I've characterized them and how I didn't characterize them. And I think that she is just very, like I said, she's just very honest, and I appreciate it. And I think the most important thing about achieving honesty in a memoir like this is to own up to your own mistakes, own up to your own faults, and also just like say, I don't know everything about this situation. I don't know that this is even true. And she just does that very well. I admired that a lot about this book. Okay, so next up, we're really changing gears here, is The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi. So this was a really fun sci-fi novel that I read, I think, in like 2 days. And yeah, it was fun. I don't have really much more to say than it was fun. There's a climate change allegory in here, which I actually quite enjoyed. I felt like he was very good at evoking the same sort of frustrations that I feel with people in power in our current political situation here, with their refusal to deal with an inevitable environmental catastrophe that's going to change everything about our world. Definitely he evoked that. So some critiques that I had of it, I don't know, just there were a couple of plot points where I was like, they were just too tropey, I guess, or something, which really is not that big of a negative for me. I'm telling you, I read this in 2 days. It was really fun. I actually bought the first 3 books of his Old Man's War series because it's really fun to read and I enjoy sci-fi. I do like sci-fi to be more intricate and philosophical. So like the best sci-fi book I have ever read and probably will ever read is The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin. It's so intricate and like so obviously informed by political theory and like, I don't even know. We're not talking about this book, but this wasn't quite to that level, but it was fun. It was fun. Another critique that I have is like one of the main characters is bisexual and like her main personality attribute is that she's slutty, and it's like, yikes, like aren't we past that? Alright, so this was the 4th book on this. This is The Awakening by Chopin? I don't know. I'm not sophisticated with the word pronunciations. This was actually a book that my mom had on her bookshelf that she read in college for one of her English classes. Look, it says Ulrichs if you went to U of M, shout out. In 1983, this was $4.95 at Ulrichs, so cute. So okay, this is the one that I'm gonna get really in depth about. So 3 of my niches we've covered is nonfiction about theology and world religions, science fiction, and turn of the 20th century literature about really depressed women. Those are like 3 of my big niches right now. And memoirs and creative nonfiction. Yeah, so this is a good introduction to my reading world here. I think I really like early 20th century literature because there's this specific writing style that's like so, it's like the formality of the social conventions that people had to abide by. Well, also this is like a higher society. Well, I'll get into that in a second. But this is like high society. And so there are like very strict social conventions that people have to follow if they're gonna save face or like not let people get whatever, feel some type of way about how they're acting. And it creates this gap between the way that people act and their inner lives of longing and the facade that they have to put on towards people, women especially. And it just creates this tension that just like is the perfect breeding ground. It's the perfect breeding ground for like really beautiful, yearning lines and atmospheres and characters, and I just really like it because I feel like those same social conventions still exist, but like obviously 150 years ago they were a lot more suffocating, right? So this book was written in 1899, or published in 1899. So there's a lot of historical context that we're talking about, people. This takes place in Louisiana, 50 years after Emancipation Proclamation, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on here in terms of that. I always feel very conflicted when I read books like this because I love turn of the 20th century literature. I don't know if I've said that already, but I do. But they're racist, you know? They're racist. I mean, we're all racist because we live in a racist society, but like they were racist. Like the main character's dad was in the Confederate Army. I didn't realize that. I think that was like towards the end, and I was like, whoa, okay, we're really going there. I see. And it's tricky. You know, you need to critique things that you love. If you don't critique the things that you love, then you're not loving them in an honest way, because nothing's perfect. Especially something that was written in 1899 by a white woman in the South. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't really have anything to say about it besides it's a personal choice. You don't have to read these books if you don't want to and they're too painful for you. I completely understand, but I think that it's perfectly possible to be critical of media while still loving it. And that's all I got to say. I don't know. It's a big yikes. I have to, you know, you just take things with a grain of salt. Like, yeah, she's got a lot to say about the oppression of being a woman, but also she's white and rich. And, okay, moving on. So, one of the most prominent themes in this book, and that I love that I read this book like in the summertime because I really feel like this in the summer, is the fleeting moment and like wanting to hang on to that perfect little moment, and like almost as soon as the moment happens, since the moment's over, it's already gone. Like you're never gonna get it back, so it's always a memory. And I feel like in the summertime, I feel like I need to be taking advantage of every single moment that I have, and I get upset with myself if I don't live every single moment to the fullest. I'm going to read a quote. I never was so exhausted in my life, but it isn't unpleasant. 1,000 emotions have swept through me tonight. I don't comprehend half of them. Don't mind what I'm saying. I'm just thinking aloud. I wonder if I shall ever be stirred again as Mademoiselle Reyes's playing moved me tonight. I wonder if any night on earth will ever again be like this one. And I don't know, it just like the bittersweetness of that, the knowledge that enjoying the moment also means that the moment's over, also means that you have a nostalgia for the moment that you can't get back, also means that like you're not, I don't know. I have this like neurosis about not taking advantage of every moment, and this book just really spoke to me. But yeah, I just really liked the way it made me feel, and I felt like I related to it a lot in the moment. It's a depressing book, no doubt. I like to read depressing books. Yeah. Alright, thank you for watching my video. I hope it was interesting, at least slightly. I will probably do a bunch more book things because I like talking about books. I was an English major in college, and to be honest, there's a English class shaped hole in my heart right now. So I will be talking about books, because it's fun. And yeah, so thanks for watching. See ya. Oh god, finger guns, okay.